Hey guys, it's Julian, and today I am going to be showing you how to make Toolroom style tech house like Mark Knight. We're going to be really diving into everything that's going on in one of these kinds of tracks. You know, a lot of times people use loops and different percussion, like, recorded loops and stuff like that. But today I'm going to be showing you how to really make this full kind of percussion and the whole arrangement like you heard in the intro, with all your own sounds and without having to use any loops. So yeah, and as usual, you can get the full project file and samples and MIDI and presets. Everything from this video is available right at the top of the description for just $5 on my Bandcamp. And if you're a patron on my Patreon, check there because it's already available. And yeah, let's dive in. So here's the loop you heard in the intro. It's 124 BPM, pretty standard BPM for this style of tech house. And the first thing we have here is this vocal chop, which sounds like this. So this is really simple. All it is it's this little vocal sample. I just took that and just grabbed that one little piece at the end of it. You can see I pitched it up as well just to put it in key with the key of the track. And yeah, and then it's just playing straight quarter notes. This is just creating some intensity underneath the track, because like if I turn this off and then turn it on, having that constant over top of everything really adds a lot of energy. And it's a nice arrangement tool as well, because like, you could kind of have this building throughout your track, like with a filter maybe, kind of like this. And kind of like work its way up. Yeah, maybe cut the kick out. And yeah, so having something like this in your track is really nice. Now, for the effects with this one, it's really simple. It's pretty much everything you would imagine. So the first thing we've got going on here is I have this reverb, which you can hear that, it's just giving it a bit of atmosphere and space. It works well with this because you get kind of like that. It's really just kind of like a long, long held out note, where the reverb is kind of like creating that tail. But it makes it very fluid, and it makes it so it doesn't just cut, hard like that. After that, we have this width rack here. So I've actually released this recently. This is the OG version. But yeah, I've just got that on there spreading out the sound. Here's without it. And then with it, so you can hear what that's doing. Then we just have a high pass filter cutting out the low end, making sure there's not going to be anything getting in the way of the bass and the kick. And then finally, I had this drum bus, which is fattening everything up. Here's without it. And then with it, so you can hear what that's doing. And then we just have a compressor, which is side chaining this to the kick. So you get that like kind of bouncing up feel. Because if you don't side chain this, it's going to be too much for the track. But then side chaining it makes it fit into the groove. And yeah, then from there we have the bass, which sounds like this. So this is a really simple bass line. It's just 3 notes. It's just da-na-na-na. When I pitch it up, you can hear it a little bit more clearly. And yeah, so we just got that in there. You can see the notes are just kind of a little bit do-do-do-do. Just that straight like 8th note groove. Really simple. And then for the sound with this one, it's made with analog. So what this is it's a square wave and then a saw wave an octave down, and then they're just being filtered. So here's without the filter. You can hear it's just this huge fat bass wave. And then we're low passing it so that we just create this big fat kind of sine wavy, triangle wavy sort of thing, but you get a lot more high harmonic content because the filter is still letting through some of these high and mid-range harmonics from the square wave and the saw wave. So we get those, but then we're just getting those like really fat full sub frequencies. And yeah, then we get the amp envelope set like that. And then after that, we have a bit of drum bus to fatten it up. There's without it. And with it, so you can have this really fills the bass out. And then we have an EQ, which is boosting the low end, like the low lows, and cutting at 100 hertz, which just makes a bit of room for the kick. And then finally, I have a compressor, which is sidechaining this to the kick. And yeah, that's it for the bass. After that, we have the kick, which sounds like this. So this one, you can see, it's pretty simple. It's just a little bit of saturation on it to kind of beef it up. Here's without that. And then with it, so you can hear the difference it makes. But this one's really mostly just about like the sound you choose. You know, you just want this like fat, hard-hitting kick, very strong transient. If you look at the waveform of this kick, you can see like the transient there at the start is very powerful. And yeah, it's just like a super hard-hitting, thumpy kick that sits really nicely on top of the mix here. And then I've got the bass and the kick in a group together with just a little bit of saturation. So here's without. And then with this. So this doesn't do a whole lot, but this is important with tech house. You can see I have two other groups here. Grouping these like similar sounds together and processing them at once with some saturation or some compression or various different things that you'll see throughout this project. It's important because it's going to glue everything together and kind of make these like similar sounds feel closer together. Like we have the low end here, which is the kick and bass. We have the hi-hats and the percussion. And yeah, when you do this, again, it's just making it all kind of come together a lot more. And it's going to really make your track strong. I think this is one of the little like professional touches that a lot of times people are missing when they can't figure out how to get their kick and bass and their track to sound really full and fat. But yeah, that's it for the low end. After that, we have the hi-hats, which sound like this. So like I said, this video, I'm going to be showing you all the layers that go into making one of these tech house types of tracks. Like, again, a lot of times people like to use different percussion loops from sample packs and top loops and stuff like that. And you can do that. But today I'm going to be showing you like really how to go from scratch and get these full, huge sounding hi-hats that are going to fit really well into this kind of track. Like this. And also with the percussion. So what it really comes down to is just sort of like knowing how to smartly layer this without having like anything get in the way of anything else. So you can see we have like the main hi-hat here, which is just this pretty standard sort of 909 style hi-hat. And then I've shortened it a little bit to make it a bit sharper and make it kind of just hit like that quick instead of if we turn up the sustain. So you can see what that's doing. I also pitched it down a little. And then I just have a bit of saturation on that, and then an EQ boosting the highs. And you'll also notice that this is louder than anything else in this group. You know, this really needs to just be like hard hitting and on the front of the track. Right up there in the high end. Then we have this ride. So yeah, this is just a ride cymbal just going. You can see what's happening is I have this being pitched down a bit. I've also high-passed it a bit to cut out the low end. And then I've got this going through an echo, which you can see the echo is set up really simply. I've just got the left ear on 22 milliseconds and the right ear on 34.5. So you're hearing this like wide stereo image because the delays are at two slightly different times. So like when I turn that off and turn it on again, you can hear what I'm talking about. It just gives it the super wide stereo image, and it works well with this ride because this is meant to just kind of be in the background, like giving you that, like almost like some energy. Just remember to go underneath everything. So putting it like really wide in the stereo field works well, because now it's going to kind of be in the background while still being very noticeable because it's in a place where nothing else is. And yeah, then after that we have these sort of background shakers / hi-hats which sound like this. So what this is two layers, and this kind of goes to the thing I was saying with smart layering. The foundation of this is we have this shaker loop. You know, pretty standard sort of live shaker. Again, this is just a recorded live shaker loop. And then what's happening is I have these hi-hats, which are like, you can hear it. So they're just playing on every other 16th note. And then these are just kind of filling it out a little bit because we're getting this on its own. But then you can hear how the added hi-hats on top are giving it a little bit more groove and also just kind of beefing it up a bit because this is kind of soft sounding. But these have a very like hard-hitting attack for a hi-hat. So then you put them together and you get the best of both. And again, the best of both worlds here. And again, this is how you really like layer these sounds up to make it so that this is just one really fat shaker, rather than just having it sound like there's a bunch of extra layers for no reason. And then I have these in a group, again, just like with the low end, you know, the grouping really helps to glue them together and make them fit closer together in the mix. So here's with no group processing. And with all of it, so you can see it's not a whole lot, it's just a little bit that goes a very long way. So the first thing here is just this reverb. You can see this is on 7% on the dry wet. It's not a super long decay time. It's not the strongest reverb. But again, here's without it. And then with it. It just gives the hi-hats like some nice atmosphere and kind of like some room so it feels more alive. And it also glues them together a bit because everything is kind of in the same room now. You know, you can think of it like if you had percussion and you were recording it with a microphone. You know, if you record 2 hits in the same room with the exact same settings, it's going to sound a lot more similar than if you record like one in your bathroom and one in your kitchen. It's going to be 2 different kind of atmospheres. That's the same mindset behind this. It's like we're trying to create the same atmosphere behind the sounds, and then they're all going to sound closer together as a result of that. And then we just have the saturator. So this is just gluing these all and making them hit a bit more. Again, without it. And with it, just really makes those hi-hats punchy and strong. And then finally, we just have an EQ, which is just to cut out the lows and boost the highs. Just to kind of bring up some of those highs there you can see that are ducking down a little bit. And yeah, that's it for the hi-hats. Then after that, the last thing we have here is the percussion, which sounds like this. So as you can see, there's quite a bit of percussion that goes into this as well. You know, I think a lot of times people think that maybe it's like just the hi-hats and the clap. But if I play that, it doesn't have nearly as much movement or life. And even if we just use like one, it's still not the same as when you have all those layers in there. So it's important to really have these layers of percussion because, again, this is what you're hearing. Like when you hear those sample pack loops or when you listen to a professional track, say by Mark Knight or any of the other producers on Toolroom, like this is the stuff that's in there. And this is what you might be missing is all these little like background percussions that are going to add a lot to the overall track. And even if you may not always notice them right away when you're listening to a track, your brain is subconsciously noticing them, and it can tell when they aren't there, and if you don't have it there, it's not going to sound as professional. So these are important to have. So yeah, so these are all just kind of like a few different odds and ends. The first thing here is this drum rack, which just has these little like sort of so this is very much a background element, but it just kind of provides something like light over top of all this mid-rangey percussion, because if you listen, it's a lot of like mid-range frequencies and sharp highs and stuff. So then you just add in this little area like and you can see it's gonna fit really nicely in there. So that's something that I've noticed a lot. Like when they have these really busy kind of things going on, just having like a little bump over top of it can be a nice element to kind of ground it. Then we have this little percussion, which is just going dun 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 dun. And this is one of those things that's really subtle, but it adds a lot to the intensity of the groove. So here is without this in the mix. and then with it. You see how like the overall track feels a lot more powerful when you have this little just constantly going. And there's something about it that makes you dance a little bit. It's very predictable, you know that it's gonna come, but it's just adding a lot just by being a little. So again, this is the subtle stuff that you don't want to miss when you're making these kinds of tracks. Like, this is something you may not really always notice, but then you'll be listening to your track with a reference track and wondering why this isn't, why it doesn't sound like this. So yeah, then we have the clap, which sounds like this. So there's just two claps laid together. We have this one, and then this one, which you can see I high pass, and then this is just really for like the high end on top of the clap, just to make it a bit sharper. And then we have those in a group together, or in a little instrument rack, and you get this pretty hard hitting back clap. And then the last percussion layer we have here is this little mid percussion, which sounds like this. So what this is it's these two percussions. These like very mid-rangey, sort of like bongo type of sounds. And then I have this other bongo thing up there, and then what's happening is it's just kind of playing in the background. Yeah, you're just getting this little, this very like energetic rhythm, but it's only happening really like in the mid-range because that's where these sounds fit in. Like, they're more in the mid-range, being like bongo sounds. So this is like really one of those things that you don't always notice. But listen to if I turn it off. And then turn it on. So you see how important this is. So this is something you really want to add every time you make one of these types of tracks. And so yeah, it's just these different percussion sounds, that I've just chopped from different odds and ends over the years. And then I've just got them in a drum rack. But it's going to add a lot of movement to your track. And then I just have those being high pass to make sure they don't mess up the low end for the bass or the kick. And then on the percussion group, you can see we just have a bit of drum bus and a high pass filter. So here's without these. And then with them, you can hear they're pretty subtle. The drum bus is just fattening it all up, giving it a more glued together feel. And then we're just cutting out the lows with this high pass filter to make sure that it's not messing up the low end for the kick or the bass. Yeah, so that's gonna be it for this one, guys. I hope you enjoyed. As always, make sure to like this video as well as subscribe, and let me know what you think of this video in the comments. Like I said in the beginning, you can get the full project file and samples and MIDI presets. Everything in this video is available right at the top of the description, so you can just use this as your own percussion loop now. If you want to have sort of like a template of everything that you need to have and how it's supposed to sound. This is all here. Maybe you just want to take the kick and bass line or something like that. But it's all available just for $5 on my Bandcamp. It's a really great way to support me, guys. I don't make a whole lot off of these videos, but with the sample packs and with these different things, I'm able to keep supporting myself and keep making these videos for you guys. So yeah, thank you so much. And yeah, so that is going to be it. Thank you so much, everybody, and I will see you tomorrow with another video.